All right, and we are live. The Hangout is live, everybody. Thanks for tuning into the what are we calling this again? This is the live podcast, and the our topic today is um, the realities of starting a guitar company.
Yes.
And we're basing what we know, the limited information that we have, based on going to some NAMM shows.
Yes.
We've seen it all. We've done it all.
Mm-hmm. And I think we should start this out with some talk about our new gear that we have for these things.
Yeah, let's do that. If you were fortunate enough or unfortunate enough to tune in yesterday at our sort of impromptu podcast, you noticed that we have some new gear. It's all audio gear. So we have microphones, and we even have headphones, so we can hear what we sound like.
Mm-hmm. And we sound good.
Mostly the headphones, I think, I think they make my butt look big. But the headphones are, because I'm a loud talker, and it kind of throttles me back if I can hear what I'm actually sound like on.
Yeah, I noticed that yesterday. You were like, "Yeah, so what's your favorite guitar, Mac?"
And the reason that we have new, let's call it audio gear, just for the sake of this conversation, is one of the live chats that we did with Mike Learn was, we're not really doing anything in the live chat, and you can't hear it, so it's like the worst of both worlds. I'm like, well, let's at least make it to where you can hear something, since we're not dancing around or whatever it is that we're not doing. So all of this gear is thanks to our Patreon supporters, and thank you to all the people at Patreon who tune in. Our channel is entirely viewer funded, and I realize I sound like a PBS pledge drive guy now, but it's important to know that the YouTube monetization requires that you have ads, and that's a no-brainer, right? There's ads on monetized YouTube channels. And I've always been like, I want to say fuck and shit, and I want to, do whatever I want on my show. But the commercials on monetized YouTube channels are totally outrageous now. And they're not just like that one thing at the beginning that you can shut off after 5 seconds. They're like in the middle. And I'm like, oh
yeah, the ones in the middle drive me nuts. And sometimes I'll turn somebody off if
I will too.
And I'll look ahead and I'll be like, oh, there's 3 more in this video.
Yeah, screw that.
Yeah, and it's just going to get worse.
Yeah, I think it absolutely is going to get worse.
Because I remember when you could watch YouTube and there was no commercials.
Yeah.
So
we do not make any money from YouTube monetization. All of our stuff is viewer supported. So thank you to everyone on Patreon.
Your tote bags are in the mail.
Your tote bags, your treat bags. So yesterday we did a little test, and it worked okay, and we're still learning. So we've got the microphone set with a little bit more gain. We're in exactly the same position that we were yesterday in terms of camera and everything, but now we've blocked the window. Now this hippie backdrop is probably not going to be what you see every time, but at least we're blocking the window, so we're making some progress. So thanks again to everyone from on Patreon and other people who support us. Adrian sent us $10 for beer one time, didn't he?
Yes.
Right on. Thanks, Adrian. You got to keep talking when I start drinking. Yeah.
It's 1/2 the hour. Time for the weather. Up next.
Okay, so let's get right to it. So anyone watching, let me know how the audio levels are. My loud. Oh, good. Okay,
loud and clear.
As long as the emphasis is on loud. That's what I'm all about. Well, it's like I said, let's breeze right past this. I wanted this to be something that if people wanted to listen to it and have it in the background and not, watch us doing whatever we're not doing, then they'd have the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
So, check it out. Yesterday was not bad. Tonight the voices are better balanced. Excelente.
Good.
Okay, so let's our topic today is Bob McKenzie. This is my brother Doug.
Hey, how's it going though?
Oh, beauty. So our topic today though is the realities of starting a guitar company. And we've talked a little bit about this in previous videos. And one of the things that I keep coming back to is the guitar industry is very, very traditional. Um, and you get, when you start making guitars, there's a long line of people telling you to make something that they think is cool, but it's not the same length line of people ready to throw money at it. So that's kind of my big takeaway from doing this for a handful of years is yeah, there's lots of people who want you to make dumb stuff, but not the same amount of people willing to pay for that same dumb stuff. What do you think, Chris?
That sounds right to me.
Yeah, that's terrific.
Yeah. Yes. Ha you are correct.
Yeah. Yeah, hot property. So one of the things that we notice at like at the NAMM show is people are too interested in getting big right away. It seems like 1 year there'll be someone there and they'll put all their eggs in the NAMM show basket, and then the next year you won't see them, or they'll be down in the basement and you won't see them. Remember we talked to a handful of people one of the first times that we went, and they were from like Detroit, Michigan, and they had these like hand painted things that were probably really hot at the I'm gonna say something really tacky, at the swap meet at home.
Yeah.
Oh, that's tacky.
At the farmer's market.
Yeah,
on Saturday morning.
And it just it played in the sticks, but it didn't play at in the big city.
Mm-hmm. And all their friends liked it.
Oh yeah,
because they made it,
mm-hmm.
not because it was cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The other thing is when you start actually making guitars, we're not even to the point yet where we're talking about what people actually want to buy, because I'll be damned if I know what that is. but sometimes the warranty work will kill you, especially if there's shipping involved. You know what I mean? Like if your designs aren't on point from the standpoint of basics and mechanics, and like, so for example, if Gibson has a headstock that snaps off, that's one thing because they're Gibson. If you and I had a headstock that snapped off and they all came back and be like, oh geez, what, making a bunch of new guitars or making a bunch of changes or doing a bunch of repairs would really sting.
Yeah, that probably ruin you if you had more than a few.
Yeah
Pretty much. And it would stop everything else too.
It would grind everything else to a halt because you couldn't send out that stuff. Yeah. So we've had people that now, even if you have a great design, even if you have an awesome guitar that everybody loves, well, now you have to shell out a bunch of money and you have to start making them. And and I realize that, like, the old cliche is you gotta spend money to make money. Mm-hmm. Well, you gotta have money to spend money to make money.
Like the guy that reckoned he could build 150 guitars a year.
I think he said 200, but
200. Let's go with 200.
And I think he had it worked out in his head that he could physically do it if push came to shove. Mm-hmm. And we got to thinking about it, and even if you could do it, it's a lot of money for 1 year worth of production of 200 guitars. Mm-hmm. So you got to buy all the stuff to make the guitars. You got to keep 200 guitars somewhere. I mean, in all likelihood, you could sell them as you went, but you're going to have a backlog at some point. Mm-hmm. Let's say you had 50 guitars that you had to store somewhere. Mm-hmm. Well, Jesus, that's a lot of guitars,
right?
You know what I mean? Even for you, how many guitars do you?
I don't have that many guitars anymore, but at one point I did have.
Well, so that's the question. What's the most guitars you have had at one time, do you think? 20?
26, 27, something like that. Okay. Yeah.
And they were probably just everywhere.
Yeah.
Did you have a bathroom guitar?
No, I didn't have a toilet guitar.
I think you need to talk into this part.
You want me to talk into the mic like this? There we go. I have my main music area, and there were lots of guitars in there. I think I have wall space for 15 or something like that,
Okay.
and then I have like a little repair area that I do stuff in, and there's room in there. And then I had an acoustic under my bed, and I had one in the office, and yeah, and they just sort of added. And I had no idea that I had that many guitars
And then all of a
until one
sudden,
day I was like, I don't have that many guitars, and I started counting. And then I ran into a couple more that I had, and I was like, "Oh yeah." And
yeah.
then,
If
and
you
then there were
don't
several that were
know,
torn apart that
yeah,
were, so
when you have to start counting
yeah,
one day, then yeah, that's gonna.
yeah. Well, that was right about the time that I decided I was gonna thin the herd a
Okay.
lot and sold almost all of them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have less than 10 now.
So the reason that we're talking about
Probably
this is
7.
Steve from Maximum Guitars came to the shop today, and as some of you may remember from the video that we did with Steve and the video that Steve did with us, he's teaching a class at a local community college, and he's got 17 students, and all those guys are doing good, and they 16 out of the 17 guys are interested in making some income with a guitar related venture. And so we thought, well, there's it when I just started doing this in 1989, everybody I knew that built guitars was going to be the next Paul Reed Smith. Obviously, that didn't happen. And I think that, the stars really aligned for Paul Reed Smith. He had a great guitar, he still does. But everything really fell into place. And I don't think you'll ever see that again. Someone like him who, for all intents and purposes, revolutionizes the industry with his QC and the guitars that he makes. And it went from being in 85, or I can't remember what year it was that he started. Let's say 85 just for fun. If you weren't making a super strat, you weren't selling a lot of guitars. And he came out with something that was brand new but still was reminiscent of something that everyone was familiar with, and it was a gigantic success.
Right.
And it didn't hurt that he had Carlos Santana.
Well, and I think, yeah, that's, you can almost, in hindsight, you can almost pinpoint it on that, right?
Yeah.
And
I think he in fact he does.
Yeah, and everything that goes along with that. And you couldn't script that, and you couldn't, never probably in a million years did he think, someday I'm going to build a guitar for Carlos Santana,
Yeah.
and he's going to like it, and everybody else is going to like my stuff too.
And that's another thing that's funny is nowadays there's a lot of people who I know guitar builders and I know guitar players who do this. We actually were mistaken for people who worked at Hipshot once at the NAMM show. I don't know why.
Well, we did have our Texas Toast shirts on, and and as did all the guys at Hipshot.
Yeah. But there's like so many people who are in bands now that are like, well, this guy was the bass player for Great White, and we're like, well, okay, that would have been cooler if it was 30 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
but and I know, and like I was saying, I know guitar builders who, I'm making a guitar for the guy who was in Uriah Heep in 1997. Like, well, who cares about that guy?
Mm-hmm.
So it's really hard. We don't have a lot of guitar heroes right now because guitar music isn't exactly super huge anymore, and that's wrong. But it's where we are. So yeah.
So there's a couple of on-topic questions.
We got a couple questions. Let's answer some. Let's take some calls.
Okay. David Hunter.
Mm-hmm. David Hunter.
What's the take for doing it as part-time gig?
What's the take?
Guitar designs.
What's the take? Meaning, how much money can you make part time?
Why are you asking me?
Well, I'm wondering. So
What's
I'm gonna
your take, I guess.
I'm gonna say if what's the take on doing it part time? I'm imagining what you mean potentially is how much money can you make doing it part time, or what's my thoughts on doing it part time. First of all, you can't make a whole lot of money doing it part time, but you can have a lot of fun doing it part time. And it's one of those feast or famine things, like if you sell 4 or 5 guitars every couple of months, and that's still part time, provided you have the guitars. You're not making a house payment in Colorado with that,
Right?
But it's cool. there's a lot of ways to make money in the guitar industry. And one of the ways that we do it, in fact, the only real way that we do it is with these videos. Intellectual property is a really popular thing. And one of the things that I would like to do, maybe one day, is have like a video series that we can sell almost like in book form. You know what I mean? Or I'm not going to write a book because I'm not exactly the greatest writer in the world, but wouldn't it be cool to have like a video series of how to do this? So that would be another way to do this kind of thing part-time. My take on doing it part-time, I do it part-time. I don't.
You're full-time now.
Well, okay. Yeah. I do this at least 40 hours a week. So yeah, that's right. I don't have a whole lot of time for any other activities, and I have stuff that I'm into, but I don't get to do it anymore very often. So I hope that answered your question.
Yes, he wanted your opinion. He clarified. He wanted your opinion.
My opinion on
doing it as a part-time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I hate to say this, but repair is one of the things that you can make some money at part-time. And I hate doing repair. So I don't. But that would be a great way to kind of start, is maybe have a shop in your area, do setup work and repair stuff part-time, and then go ahead.
Yeah, well, you can do it with a lot fewer tools.
Yep.
You can put the word out at local music stores or even Craigslist and stuff like that, and build a reputation fairly quickly. I've seen several guys do that.
Yeah.
And you can flip some guitars on the side and stuff like that, and make some money doing that. Building guitars is way more,
unless it's for fun.
Intensive.
If your main focus is to have a good time making guitars, then yeah, by all means. And it's totally cool. And that's one of the reasons that we do these videos, is we like making guitars, and it's cool to share making guitar stories and videos with people who also are into that stuff. So I hope that answered your question. What's the next one, Mrs. Texas Toast?
Stephanie wants to know, or Stefan rather, sorry, Stefan, how long did it take before you actually sold your first guitar, and how did you go about selling it?
Okay. Let's see. So I started doing this in 1989, and it took a long time before I actually sold a guitar, mostly because I am my own worst critic. So I did a video a long time ago about don't get too interested in selling stuff right away. Because one of the worst things is when you sell something and it comes back later on and you go, oh man, I can't believe I actually sold that. Because you see all the flaws that like you don't do anymore, but you see them from that one. So it takes a while, and I think the best thing to do is to get good, really master your craft, and your friends will be into the guitars that you make, and the hot setup is to get them to play them. You know what I mean?
That's kind of what you did for a long time too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Early on was, you called them buddy guitars. And you said, I'll make you a guitar if you pay for all the stuff. Now,
as it turns out, that's a lousy way to do it.
Well,
because nobody appreciates buddy guitars as much as
Well, and all the stuff is more than a set of pickups.
That's usually what people thought. Yeah. They're like, well, I bought the pickups and the tuners. Well, there's binding and there's paint and there's frets.
And in some ways, and I think there might have been too many buddy guitars.
Yeah.
So... But it was a good way to hone your craft.
Absolutely. And it was the one positive from the buddy guitars was it was a way to make a lot of guitars without paying to make a lot of guitars.
Right.
You know what I mean? I didn't have to buy all that stuff.
Yeah. So. Yeah. That's some of them you did.
Some you did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Remy R, I hear you, man. I get impatient too, and it's way more fun to start projects than it is to finish projects. Eric says that you guys are my online luthier teachers. Well, that's cool, man. I hope. And by the way, I'm having a lot of fun with the live stuff and with the what's on my workbench. Even though we've only done one of those videos that's posted, we've got more coming. But I'm kind of running out of ideas of what people want to see. So someone sent in a thing, you should do a video on refinishing a Yamaha acoustic.
Oof.
So I'm like, well, that sounds like something that you really, really want to do.
That's pretty specific.
Pretty specific.
78 Yamaha FG 130 red label.
So yeah, I don't see. Eric, my first guitar was a disaster too, and one day I'm going to show you what my first guitar looked like, but it's not going to be today.
I hate selling guitars. Guitar players are always broke.
Absolutely.
I think that was part of the buddy guitar thing too. And part of the buddy guitar thing was because there was they didn't really have any skin in the game. They didn't have any real money in it. They didn't actually really appreciate what it took to make the guitar. It was a free guitar. Yeah. It was like a free meal or a free movie. Well, I'm glad I didn't pay for it. Or,
at least I didn't pay for that.
Yeah. And
now, not all the buddy guitars were like that.
No,
as a matter of fact, most of the buddy guitars were not like that.
You're right.
There were a few standouts that were very memorable for the sucky buddy. Suck buddy.
And those are the ones that you remember. You don't remember the good ones. At least
I. Well, yeah. So like
just
all the guitars. My the guy who you've seen him in videos, Brett Hagen. He and I are in a band together. We've been in a band for the last 12 years. All he plays is my stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And every single one of them, he'd try them and he'll get back to me on what what he likes and what he doesn't like, and I'll always make guitars for Brett because it's the real definition of a buddy guitar. Mac, who was on our accidental live podcast yesterday, is another one of those guys who, and both those dudes will tell you, they're like, well, we don't really contribute a whole lot of money, but they contribute a lot to other stuff. So Mac plays out easily once a week.
Mm-hmm.
Easily once.
He said 150 shows last year.
Yeah. And that's not surprising because like I say, when I say easily once a week, it's usually, and I think he counts blues jams as a gig, but okay, whatever.
Yeah.
And he's always posting pictures of his basses that we made him. And yeah. In the corner of my eye, I saw something, never work with Purple Heart. I just picked up half a dozen board feet. Yes, I have. As a matter of fact, the one of the guitars that we were working on this weekend has a Purple Heart fretboard, and it's awesome. And I love Purple Heart.
And it's covered in blue tape, so we can't show it off.
It's Blue Heart right now.
We painted it this weekend.
So what else? What else we're going to talk about the realities of starting a guitar business? So one of the
it's really easy to make guitars. It's not easy to make guitars, but it's hard to find people that want to pay real money for your guitar.
Let's talk about that because I want to spin off on that a little bit. It's difficult to find people who want to spend money on not just an instrument that you made, but also an instrument that you designed.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So then what happens is you can fall into that trap of, well, I'll make Strats or Tellies. And we've done that a little bit. We've made some Tellies, and we call them the daily drivers, and they've been kind of popular, but for the most part, it's really kind of hit or miss what people like. I still don't know what people like. I know they like Strats, but Fender makes Strats, and I know they like Fenders. I know they like Les Pauls, but I'm not going to make Les Pauls anymore unless somebody pays me an exorbitant amount of money to make one, because Gibson makes those. Unless somebody wants something that Gibson doesn't make. So, like, for example, we've got a guy who wants us to make a Les Paul with a Floyd Rose. So, and I know Gibson makes that, but he wants it to be thin, and he wants it to have some other stuff that Gibson doesn't do. And I'm like, well, that sounds like a fun project, and I think it would be a cool video project too. So what'll happen is that'll be a video series on Fred's slim Les Paul with Floyd, and that'll be cool. But yeah, you have to be traditional, but you have to be original, and that's really tough to do.
Yeah, and it can't be, if it's too traditional, you're just ripping somebody off. And yeah. So I think one of the places that we seem to do pretty well right now is, if we make a telly that we think is cool, nobody else is going to like it.
Yeah.
But if we make a telly that somebody else thinks is cool, and if they commission us to make it,
Mhm.
that's, we do pretty well in that kind of thing. And we do pretty well with things that other people just can't or won't make.
Now that brings me to another thing though, that is a tricky part of the guitar company business. And that is that it's easy to sell someone a guitar that you can hand them and go, hey, here's a guitar. It's ready to go. You can take it today.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little trickier to go, well, yeah, we can make that and try to take somebody's vision and turn it into a reality.
Mm-hmm.
And even if, because even if you do everything right, it can still be wonky.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like, we've had people who we've had to talk out of, like, our buddy Kurt in Austin, who's a totally cool guy. We made him that blue double cutaway, like a guild almost.
Oh yeah.
Well, he had it in his head that he wanted an alder neck. And I'm like, wow, man, if it was me, I wouldn't do that. And he was very, very open to suggestion and coaching.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just build people exactly what they want, and it's not a great idea, then yeah. So you kind of have to stay on that formula path for a little bit. You know what I mean? Like mahogany bodies and mahogany necks go together. Ash bodies and maple necks go together, and you can kind of straddle that line a little bit, mahogany bodies and maple necks. But I don't know that we've made some guitars with bolt-on mahogany necks, and they're okay.
Yeah.
But they're just a little bit kooky. So yeah.
Yeah.
There's a question here. How do you figure out prices? Most people, retail, for example, will double their cost. Well, that's that's a thing. You have to figure out what your time is worth, and you have to obviously you can figure out what materials are. There's a lot of hidden costs associated with building guitars. So remember that all that paint costs money, all that sandpaper to sand that paint costs money, all that electricity to spray that paint and juice up the air compressor and run the bandsaw, all that stuff costs money. So yeah, it's tricky. And especially if you then mark that up 100% or double what your price is, you might be pricing yourself out. You might not. Boy, and that's one of the issues with selling your guitars at a store.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Because they expect they need to make a little bit too.
Yeah.
And they usually need to make a little bit more than a little bit.
Yeah.
There's a side comment here
Mhm.
that kind of relates. They're like, Bullwhip Johnson said, making quality guitars much cheaper than major brands would be quite popular. And I guess, what are your thoughts on that, and why can't smaller companies?
I think that's so the question is, I don't know if, again, I'm not sure what people can hear because Ian's not talking into the microphone.
You can hear.
Okay. What making high quality guitars versus production guitars, that's really that's all you got. You can't compete with the big guys on volume, and you can't compete with them on marketing. But what you can do is you can make a really great guitar. And that's not to say that Fender and Gibson and Paul Reed Smith don't make great stuff, because they do. But so quality, attention to detail, that's all you got. And maybe even like little things. Whoa. Sorry. Little things, like anytime you're talking with anybody about a custom made anything, those details are what's cool. You remember when the Discovery Channel was the motorcycle channel,
Mm-hmm.
and those guys would make those crazy bikes, and they'd put all these little tiny intricate details into, like, the gas cap knurling had was shaped like a figure 8 or something. They do little stuff like that you didn't see right away, but you had to notice as you went, and that stuff is cool. And that's, yeah, as a custom builder, that's where you live, because that's
Yeah. I think one of the things that a lot of people think when they talk talk to us about having a guitar made or buying a guitar is that our guitar is somehow going to be cheaper than
Yeah.
the one they can buy at
Especially
Guitar
if
Center.
if it's a Strat.
And
Yeah.
or any of the standard shapes. Oh yeah, how much would you, could you make me an SG
Yeah.
for?
Sure.
And really, what they're asking is, can you make me an SG
Yeah.
for cheaper than I can buy the Gibson or Epiphone or whichever
Mhm.
one I'm looking at right now? And the answer is always going to be, well, no, probably not.
So let's talk a little bit about pricing, because I think that's an important thing to think about. And one of the things that we did a video recently about the inlay jig that we sent to Stu Mack for consideration. And everybody was like, well, don't let Stu Mack do it because they charge way too much. And I thought, well, there's a reason that Stu Mack charges what they charge. Now, again, everyone's going to say, oh, they're an evil empire and blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is that it costs a lot of money to fabricate that stuff, keep it in inventory, market it, ship it, have it, you know what I mean? And then there's always the question of, well, if you had it in, on a different scale length, I would buy it. If it was in green, I would buy it. If it was left hand, I would buy it. So that's, you got to charge. You got to remember to charge for all of the costs associated with running the business.
Yeah.
You have to make a little bit of money too, or it's not worth it,
Yeah.
Why is there a giraffe peeing Skittles?
Laptop sucks.
Oh, because my laptop sucks. So remember we
Sounds right to me.
we talked a little bit about that, like why Stu Mack is so expensive. And
Yeah.
I don't think they are. I think they're the can we agree that Stuart McDonald is the biggest guitar tool retailer in the world, probably?
Yeah, I think so. But I think in the overall scheme of things, they're not an overly huge company, and I think some of their stuff
Stuart McDonald does not ever have any commercials on the Super Bowl halftime show.
No. No. And some of their prices can be more than you can buy that same thing from somebody else.
Absolutely.
But I think sometimes what they're doing is they want to be all inclusive and they want to have everything you could possibly need. And I'm sure if you ask them, they would agree some of our tools are more expensive than they are other places.
But it's one-stop shopping, and that's worth
shopping and
something.
And all their stuff is quality,
Consistent.
Yeah.
And
you know what you're getting.
Yeah.
And customer service is also great. I've ordered like that trans tint die from Stu Mack, and I remember I got one of them and it didn't explode in the bag, but it leaked all over the bag, and it was mostly still there, but it made a big mess. And I'm like, hey, the tobacco burst dye leaked all over the box, and you're like, oh, we'll just send you a new one.
Right.
So
and
I really like that. But that's one of those things that drives prices up is great customer service costs money. And there's all those people who work at Stu Mack, and they all kind of want to get paid every week. So, yeah.
So way to go, Stu Mack.
Weenie
roller.
Weenie roller. So I want to, we're going to be doing a lot more with Stu Mack coming up in the year to follow, and I'm really looking forward to that. We're building a rapport with those guys, and I want to have Eric on with a live chat. I think that'll be
super fun. Super cool to hear his perspective.
The tricky bit about that is, he works at Stu Mack, and so it's going to be convincing him to, on his day off, talk about his job.
Oh, but you know what? He loves guitars so much. He'll gladly do it.
Yeah,
that's the way everybody is. You do it because you love it, right?
That's right. That's why I do it. Yeah, I don't do it for the money at all. So,
somebody made a comment about how I think it was Gibson and Fender's custom shop prices are ridiculously expensive.
Very high. Yeah.
And
how much custom do you actually get? That's just it.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, that's the way that we should be compared to those companies is custom shop pricing more than
the import.
More than, or even their inline factory stuff, I mean, that's so anytime you deviate from the standard thing that you make, it takes at least twice as long to do that step.
And the Fender Custom Shop is I made a video a long time ago about how the Fender Custom Shop's not really a custom shop, and that's really a clickbait title. I mean, that's not really fair, because I get it. Like, they make Fenders, so to go, well, they won't make a Les Paul, so they're not a real custom shop. That's not right. And so it's just like any automotive custom shop. It's not like Ford's all of a sudden going to make a Camaro because they're custom shop, but they'll do custom colors, or they'll do custom interior based on stuff that they already do. Things that you can't just go to the dealership and get.
Right.
And so that's what all the Fender Custom Shop and Paul Reed Smith Masterbuilt and Gibson Custom Shop and that stuff. That's what they bring to the party, and that's cool. So, but if you want to Strat with a different scale length, you're probably not going to be able to get it from the Fender Custom Shop. And if you want to, I don't know, it seems like Fender's Custom Shop primarily is interested in the relic guitars right now, and that's selling good for them, so that's cool, but and it's not mahogany neck guitars with 22-inch scale or baritone scale. It's relic stuff. And then as soon as what the market wants is something different than relic, then Fender Custom Shop will be all about that, and that just makes good business sense. So let's see what else we got here. Thanks everybody for watching, by the way. This is very cool, because we just sort of kind of threw this out there and started to do it. I really like doing these live things, and I'd like to start doing them more. In fact, we talked about doing more of these last time we did one, and I mentioned that I wanted to do a couple a month, and I'm going to see if I can convince Chris to do a lot more than that, because we have all the stuff. It's already.
You're allowed to not or you're allowed to have other people other than me here too.
Absolutely. Now that's a great thing. How many what other people would you guys like to see besides Chris or besides me? I'm like Mr. Personality.
If it was just me,
no,
that'd be the shortest video.
No way. We could get.
I like guitars.
We could get you and somebody else.
These are good.
These are good.
Me and somebody else. Yeah, I could read questions. So yeah. So heck of a year, huh? That's my go-to question.
One of the things that is going to be the standard question. You know what? I'm going to ask you, Chris.
Someone said get Sully.
I don't know if John Sullivan actually likes us.
I think by the time we see Sully every year, he's just like worn out. Probably, I think those shows just wear you out, talking to everybody and glad-handing everybody.
Yeah.
And then we come up and try. Yeah. I mean, there's no reason that he wouldn't like us.
Well, I don't know him. I'm pretty.
I don't think he knows us well enough to not like us. Yeah,
that's true. Yeah. That's true. We'll give him another chance to not like us. Well, Sully would be a great one to have on. I would love to do that if he would be into doing it.
Yeah.
What I was going to ask you something. Oh, I have a standard set of questions that I'm going to ask everybody who comes on and does the live show.
Okay. Do I get those questions?
I might as well ask you. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm here live with Chris Fesker, and I have a series of questions for you, Chris. Are you ready?
Thanks for having me.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Ready. Here we go.
Is this is it a timed thing?
It's a timed thing.
Like the final challenge on.
It's a time thing, and it's mostly binary questions too, so you can't like go off the reservation.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So, sweet or savory?
Uranus. Oh no.
Yeah, I said it was a binary. All right, you're not playing right. All right,
okay, I will play. Sweet or savory?
Yeah.
I'll go with savory. It used to be sweet, but now it's savory.
Okay.
In my older age.
Okay. Mexican or Italian?
Mexican.
Okay. Ice Ice Baby or Under Pressure?
I don't actually really like either one. So I guess if I have to pick, I'd say Ice Ice Baby just for the kitsch factor.
That's the only right answer.
Okay.
Chicago or New York? And I'm talking about pizza here, not the town.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
There's only one right answer.
New York, just because Carrie Ann's here.
What's the guitar that got away?
The guitar that got away for me?
Yeah.
I don't know. One of my favorite things is having guitars and trying them out and enjoying them and then moving them on. I always feel like I'm more like a a foster parent to guitars.
Yeah, you don't really like have like this is my one guitar that's the true and holy
for a
thing.
while I had some of that stuff that I thought I was going to hang on to forever. But once I got rid of it, I was fine with that.
Yeah.
I enjoy buying guitars and repairing them. And I like to think that everything that leaves my possession leaves better than it showed up.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
So
okay, and
what about the guitar you got that had like the bug?
oh yeah, no, that
bugs
was
in it,
the one with the bugs, the Jazzmaster with the bugs in it. That was gross, and I was glad to see that guitar go, because even after I cleaned all the bugs out of it, I still remembered that it had bugs all over it, and it had those little black bug poopy dots in places where
bug
turds. You know that you couldn't get them out.
Yeah,
that whole thing was the most disgusting day of my life. Did you just paint
over the bug turds?
No, I just buffed it all out.
Buff the bug turds. Okay, and then finally, what's up to 5 Desert Island albums? Yeah.
No, I can't.
Okay. 1 or 2 Desert Island albums.
1 or 2 Desert Island albums that I could. That's all I'm going to listen
to.
Well, no,
if you're stranded on a desert island.
Okay.
And oh man, I sure am glad I have ZZ Top Trace Hombres.
Oh, okay. So I'll say Beach Boys Today. I know a lot of people are going to say Beach Boys Pet Sounds better album.
Well, fuck them. I'm going to argue. It's your desert island, baby. You can do whatever you want.
And something to get me wound up, so I'll go with Cinderella's Night Songs album.
That's kind of a big.
Wow.
You put me on the spot. I wasn't ready for that question.
I want to real quick answer Michael's question. How's the badass joiner blade working? It's working great, actually. That the Shelix cutter, anything that you can get a Shelix cutter for, do it. It's absolutely worth it. And someone said sweaty balls.
When you were talking about what do you want to see on the live chats, someone says make sweaty balls.
Yeah. Oh, so I do kind of have a little bit of a story about a guitar that got away.
Let's hear it.
6 or 7 years ago, I sold the first vintage guitar that I ever owned and that I restored. I ended up selling 1 year because I needed the money for something else. And I sold it, and I didn't really want to sell it.
Yeah.
But it was worth a little bit of money.
I don't know if you're looking at this, but Ken at Boudreaux Guitars has a story almost exactly like that. Only he got the guitar back.
Well, yeah, and so
you saw that video
this last week, I was cruising Reverb, and there was my guitar. And the guy,
what was it?
It's a '65 Fender Jag.
Okay.
And the guy that I sold it to then sold it to another guy, and I knew it was mine.
Yeah,
and so I got a hold of the guy, and I was like, "Hey, did you buy it from so and so?" And he said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, what would you? I said, I'm the one that restored it and this and that. And what would you sell it back to me for?" And his price was way too high. I don't think he'll ever get that. And I was like, I don't really care about that guitar anymore.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, so how many Jags have you built?
Have I built?
Like if you you could make a counterfeit Jag if you really wanted to.
Oh yeah, I could make one probably look exactly like the original at this point if I really wanted to. Yeah, and that's part of it too. Vintage. A lot of vintage stuff doesn't have any real allure to me anymore. But
I think especially Fender stuff to me doesn't have the same allure as like some of the Yamahas that you brought in, some of those like quirky SG things, because they just don't. Because no one's gonna make like
no, you can't make that.
Yeah. So that's what, but like I really like vintage Strats. Well, okay, it's not that big of a deal to make a Strat, but
my 98 62 vintage Strat,
my 98 62, yeah.
Tell them about your guitar that got away that you used the proceeds to buy a computer.
Oh, my 1985 Paul Reed Smith, Yeah, that was a bad one. I shouldn't have let that one go. I've had a bunch of guitars that got away, and I'm okay with it now. But you look back on some of that stuff. I have a lot more rifles that I wish I still had than guitars. But that's a story for another time. So what else do you want to talk about? So we've got about 15 more minutes before have we pretty much covered Someone says 3 Schecters. Which ones? I
Well,
don't.
That was a reply to somebody else.
Oh, okay, cool.
Guitar
All right, so that's
that
not because I don't know about Schecters very much. All the ones that Pete Townshend played that have Pete Townshend DNA in the like little teeny screw bits that. Um, so are we pretty much maxed out with our topic for today? Oh no, we have one here. How far into the company did you start, or have you started trademarking stuff? No, okay, that's something that has been coming up a little bit. People have said, "Hey, you should patent that." Um, Most people who say that have never patented anything. It's a lot harder to do than everybody thinks. And that whole poor man's patent thing, the especially for guitars, Ted McCarty and Leo Fender probably have patents on everything cool that I haven't thought of yet. Trademarks, I guess, are another thing. I haven't done any of that stuff. I'm not really Matt's big fat one. Yeah. I don't know if I could trademark Matt's big fat one.
No,
Mrs. Texas Toast is pointing at some guitars
because there
that,
was another
yeah.
comment coming up. It says,
Okay.
So Sir Spamalot says he's kind of new here.
Okay. Hi, Sir
Yeah.
Spamela.
Have you considered building acoustics?
And
That's when I thought of Matt's big fat one.
Okay, this is going to surprise a lot of people because I made a video a while ago called "Acoustic Guitars Suck." Again, another clickbait title, but I think that if I wanted to really start making guitars for money one day, let's bring this back around full circle. I would make classical guitars because the people who play classical guitars have money, and I think everything about them would be a lot more mellow. I don't know if I'm mellow enough to make them, but I think just something about it I think would be very, very therapeutic. But I haven't done it yet. I have made several acoustic guitars. There's all back in the old days, but I haven't decided to radically alter my shop to start making acoustic guitars. They'd all be fabric top acoustic guitars. So I don't hate acoustic guitars. I think they're bad luck, mostly because Billy Gibbons says they're bad luck. And who am I to argue? So yeah. How about you, Chris? I mean, do you even have any acoustics right now?
I have one acoustic. It's just a couch guitar for sitting on the couch and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Strumming along and taking to campfires and stuff like that. I don't even have a bag for it. I just throw it in the truck and go.
In the back of the truck.
Well, now I put it inside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I make my passenger hold on to it.
Yeah.
Your passenger.
Who's the guitar bearer? Ian?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So yes, I think we've pretty much covered all that we don't really know a whole hell of a lot about the realities of guitar business, but I thought that was a cool thing to kind of talk a little bit about because it's come up quite a bit in the last few weeks. And if you guys have any ideas for more of these podcasts, there's going to be a lot of them. So please let me know what you guys want to talk about, what you want to hear us yammer on about, and any special guests that you want to have. Either if we had people come to the shop, that'd be awesome. But it's not exactly practical to have. We want to have Brian Nutter on in the next couple weeks. We have to figure out how to do that whole live via satellite thing. And we will, and that's going to be cool. And I know Brian's looking forward to it. And I know I'm looking forward to it because Brian's a totally cool dude who we got to hang out with not enough at the NAMM show. Oh, and there's someone here. Eric wants to know shirts. We've got a bunch of new shirt stuff coming. Classic designs and some new ones too, including the Weenie Roller Operators Union shirt, which it will be very cool.
I don't have anything to drink.
That's easily
I'll just pretend.
Weenie Roller Operator Union local number 69. 69 dudes. Let's see.
Somebody asked about have you ever considered selling your guitars on guitars and merchandise on eBay?
We've sold a couple things on eBay.
We've shirts you could sell easy. Guitars you can put on there. The funny thing is, if it's not funny. Marketing guitars for
is it funny? Haha.
No, it's not funny. It's not marketing guitars is really hard. And like we were talking about earlier, in a lot of ways, building the guitar is the easy part. Trying to find the person that's going to buy it and buy it for a decent price is really, really difficult. If you have, if we built 20 Challengers and then went out and tried to find buyers for those 20 Challengers, that's hard to do.
Reverb is another one of those things. We've got a handful of guitars on Reverb, and sometimes they move, sometimes they don't. And it's, it seems like if it's really cheap, it'll sell. And
sometimes even then it won't sell. We've tried that too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So we do better on customer spec stuff than making a bunch of guitars that we think are going to be hot.
Which was one of those things where I'm like, well, let's just have a bunch of stuff ready to go, so then people can take it home. They don't have to wait.
Right.
And that didn't work out either. So so we recently sold the daily driver, and the guy wanted us to swap out the pickups, and it was a totally cool thing because the daily drivers are very modular. So we were able to just pop off a pickguard and do a little bit of wiring, and Bob's your uncle.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know. I do have an Uncle Bob.
And an Uncle Larry.
And Uncle Larry.
Uncle Larry's cool.
You met Uncle Larry, huh? Yeah.
Somebody mentioned earlier that they wanted the Guitar Wood Experts guitar.
Oh, the Guitar Wood Experts guitar is gone. Sadly, it's gone.
Well,
not for the person who has it.
Yeah.
They love it. Yeah.
Not for us, not for him.
I love that the Guitar Wood Experts was very, very cool.
Yeah, that was neat. And in a lot of ways, that was, I don't want to say it was a milestone, but it was one of the cooler things that we built.
Yeah.
In the last year, I'd say. So,
you know what I think would be a cool live topic would be, I've seen some people talk about Wayne Charvel and who?
Ben from
Crimson Guitars.
Crimson Guitars.
Yeah. I don't know if Ben from Crimson Guitars would come on either.
Time zone difference.
The time zone difference is going to be tricky, and I don't think he knows who we are, so we'd have to tell him that we have a guitar channel.
Oh, Remy clarified. He wants the Guitar Wood X, not that specific guitar, but he wants that guitar
in green.
Reverse white.
So okay, all right, yeah. Well, actually, we're gonna work a little bit on that kind of thing for we had a guy come over to the shop yesterday, Matt. Remember him? And he wants to have basically that guitar, only I don't know how the first one can be the reverse. The first one should just be the regular one, and then the reverse of that should be the reverse, not the non-reverse.
It should be Firebird 1 and Firebird 2, but they use that for something else.
Or double reverse.
I think a lot of this is like revisionist history too, what you call it.
Yeah.
And I think really it all has to do with the headstock.
Yeah, I think you're right, because the body kind of is the same backwards, but not.
It's got bigger horns when it's the first version. And I think the second version was an attempt to build a guitar way cheaper than they had. That guitar is almost like an SG as far as it's just pretty,
because it doesn't have the
plain,
the banjo tuners and
and it's not
mini
all
humbuckers.
And it's not all decked out in binding and bling. It's
well, Remy, send me an email, because if you want to get something going, we can do that. We can talk about, hey baby, you want to get something going? Okay, so I'm reading a handful of things here before we got about 8 more minutes left, and then we got a boogie. A tour of Texas Toast. I think a live tour of Texas Toast would be great. Right now is a very bad time for that, and I can't go into why that is, but maybe one day it will all come out. But the next time we can kind of tidy up the shop and maybe do something like that. Carbon fiber and Kevlar bodies. I don't know. I think I've seen acoustic guitars with carbon fiber. I love the non-traditional guitar materials. Like Dan Armstrong's one of my mentors, and in fact, I think one of the next live chats should be, who's your mentor? And we talk about some of the people who have made stuff that we've really liked, and maybe we have a panel of guitar makers. I'm just this pie in the sky. And you know, the Travis Bean and the aluminum neck Kramers are always high up on my list of cool stuff. Deep dive into the beloved pin router. We could probably set this up and do exactly this from the pin router.
We could just use it as the background and let
Background, yeah.
Oh, you guys were talking. I was just looking at the pin router
And
the
then
whole time.
Yeah.
We could fire it up in between, scare everybody. Yeah.
I think a live deep dive into the pin router would be hilarious.
Be like, yeah, wouldn't be all that long, but
Oh,
it'd be a fun video.
I could talk about the pin router for hours.
Pontificate about the pin router.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for tuning in, Bob. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We've got 6 more minutes here. We can jaw jack for then, and then we've got to go. This is going to be so. Chris, I'm going to put Chris on the spot right now. I would
Hang
like.
on. Let me adjust my headphones.
Okay. All right. Everyone,
They make my ears hot.
They
And
make your butt look big.
yeah, they do. No, my butt makes my butt look big.
That's
There
way
we go.
better.
That's way better.
That's far superior.
I feel
in
better.
every way.
Oh, hang on. Okay, there we go. That's better. Let's finish this up.
Let's finish this up. So, Chris, I want to put you on the spot. How would you feel about doing this every week?
Sure, I'll do that.
Sure, why not? And if you and
Sit
then
around and talk about stuff.
yeah, and then I might and it's just going to be you and some other dudes. I'm not going to do
Ooh,
it.
yeah.
Dude pile
Yeah. Remember, I'm not down
with a dude
with
pile.
any sports
No,
where I have to touch other people,
Yes.
and I'm not down with a pile of dudes.
Yeah. Yep.
Things you need to know about Chris.
I'm glad that because if someone's doing a fabric top telly Paisley, thanks to us. That's cool, man. I didn't set out to be the fabric top guy, like I've said so many times, and I'm not the fabric top guy because I'm not the person who invented that. I don't have there's a lot of people who do it who have done it before me. So
You should patent that.
Dutch rudder. Is that what you're cracking up
Come
about? Let's see. How come technology hasn't made a neck that won't move or shift?
I think they have made necks that way, but people don't want them because they
that's a lot
don't
of it,
feel like, wood has a certain it even when wood's cold, it doesn't feel cold.
Yeah.
You grab an aluminum neck, it's cold, and those move. But carbon fiber necks feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Those don't move. So
yeah,
it's back to that whole traditional thing.
Guitar players are traditional to a fault.
And painfully traditional in a lot of ways. Yeah,
you can wander around the NAMM show and everything that's not guitar related. Well, I suppose like horns aren't exactly. There's not a lot of new innovations in saxophones.
No,
but yeah, you wander around the NAMM show for just a little bit, and all the technology and all the actual cutting edge innovative stuff is definitely not guitars.
So,
No.
I have a question.
Somebody was asking about pickups, and they're like, "Hey, what do you think about these pickups?" And I'm sorry, I'll get right back to you, Mrs. Texas Toast. And they were talking, "What do you think of these pickups?" And I go, "Well, I've never heard of them, but it really takes a lot for me to get jazzed about pickups because at the end of the day, it's coils of wire and magnets."
Yeah.
So there's a lot of good ones. So if they're good and you dig them, then yeah, rock on. I'm sorry. What was that, babe, that you wanted to?
Oh, I want to know why Chris put that body behind.
In case we ran out of time and we needed something to talk about. Yeah. We can show it off though real quick.
And someone says the bass look behind it. This is a 5-string bass from my friend Matt Wheatley. Oh, have they? Okay.
So this
What
is
the hell is
This
that?
is a guitar called the Marauder that Fender made prototypes of, but they never actually made some. And we've been asked to make a bunch of these for some guys on a forum. And so this is one that we made, and it's got lots and lots of pick guards.
So what's the deal with the Marauder and Marauder 2? This is a version of the Marauder 2, right?
This is the Marauder 2.
Okay.
Yeah. And it came out after the original Marauder. No, good Lord.
And now a lot of these parts that you're kind of manipulating right now would have been in
Would have
chrome
been in
plated
metal.
something.
Yeah. So the pick guard is the only real
That
case
would have
be
been
that.
actual pick
Everything
guard
else
back in
is
the day.
metal. So
Okay.
this is a metal plate. That's metal. That's metal. That's metal. But anyway, so that was something that we worked on this weekend that was fun.
I think the Marauders are cool. the it's one of those things where the more I look at it, the more I'm like, oh yeah, let's just make them and be
It
done
looks
with them.
if there was a guitar in the movie Tron, that would be it,
But
right?
I think it, yeah, and I think it was a product of the excess of the '60s, and if we can add more chrome and we can do more, we can put more
Yeah.
switches.
and-
Yeah, it's got like 1,000 switches, it seems like. So, but it's fun to make that stuff. I really enjoy making it,
yeah,
and we're just making bodies, and the guys are gonna
yeah, they're
source
handling
all the
all
other
their
parts,
paint and everything.
it'll be
Yeah,
really fun to see those come together.
cool.
And I don't have to do it.
I haven't got to do a thing.
Yep.
Well, cool. So I think we're coming to the end of our this week's live podcast. Thanks everybody for joining us, and thank you to everybody for helping me, Mrs. Texas Toast and Ian and Chris for being here with me today in the workshop. And yeah, weenie roller to everybody out there. So this is going to be a regular weekly thing. I'm thinking that Sunday is probably the best day to do it, but we will keep you all posted. So if tell all your friends and share the video, because the audio portion of this will actually be something that's you can hear now, thanks to the help of all of our Patreons.
And hopefully you can,
So
enjoy it in your car, enjoy it at work.
That's right. So we'll see you guys next time. And remember, life is short. You might as well have a cool guitar.